Hey, what's up everyone? This is Nishi from MST.TV here. So as I'm sure you all have heard, yesterday we just got some huge news from Konami about the 2020 Megatins, and while we didn't get a ton of information, they dropped one hell of a bomb on us. That's right, Red Eyes Dragoon, the card that has been terrorizing the OCG for the past half a year, is finally being imported to the TCG. On top of that, we did get a bit of other news about the product, like which core sets are going to be included, so we'll do a bit of a breakdown of cards that I think you should all be paying attention to the prices of over the next little while. Obviously, with the way that things are in the world right now and a lot of events being cancelled, it's extremely important to keep in mind what cards are on that reprint radar, because as soon as the reprints are confirmed, they'll probably tank in price. Without any events coming up, now is probably going to be the ideal time to start moving these cards. So yeah, also a couple of things I want to mention here before we get started. One, make sure that you guys tune into the channel tomorrow, Friday, because Tombox is posting a live duel where he plays against his fiance, and the results are like you just have to watch it for yourselves. Also, one other thing, I want to give a quick shout out to Xavier Exotics, who actually purchased a card from me on Facebook yesterday, but he doesn't believe that it's actually me, so hi. Anyways guys, let's jump right into it. Okay, so first off, we're going to take a look at the official product page here. We have a tentative release date of August 27th, 2020, so roughly the same time as last year, I believe, though obviously the circumstances here are a lot different since we don't have nationals or worlds, and I mean, to be fair, there's a possibility that we might not have big events started up by that point anyways, and the product could be delayed, but only time will tell. Anyways, so if I'm reading things correctly here, I don't see a mention of a promo pack anywhere at all. It just tells us that each tin will contain 3 mega packs, where each mega pack contains 1 secret rare, but now 2 ultra rares, 2 super rares, 1 rare, and 12 commons. So basically they're giving us more holos per pack in exchange for the promo cards. Basically, it looks like also they took the promo card slots and moved them into the main set, which is okay. It's kind of a surprise, right? Because the promos were a big part of why the tins were so successful last year with cards like Nibiru and Dark Ruler No More. This means that whatever World Premier cards we get in this year's Mega Tin are going to be harder to pull though, because you have to pull them from the Mega Packs. Anyways, so it also mentions that the cards from the set will consist of cards from Savage Strike, Dark Neostorm, Rising Rampage, Chaos Impact, and more. So we're kind of used to having cards reprinted in the Megatins of the following year, with some obvious exceptions of course, but this just kind of confirms what we should already be expecting to see. Now it also mentions and more to let us know that we're not limited to just these 4 core sets. I think this stems from the success that the Megatins saw last year, reprinting the cards from Dark Saviors, so I would expect a similar trend of reprinting side set exclusive cards here, but we'll talk about that a little bit more after. And then of course it tells us about the inclusion of Red Eyes Dragoon, which is an absolutely fantastic card. Kind of out of nowhere, it makes me wonder what other cards they might import through this set as well. Like, I really hope personally that we get Crossout Designator. I'm really excited about that card, but I guess we'll find out. And then lastly, they do mention that there will be 3 more World Premier cards introduced in the Mega Packs as well, though they don't give us any info, so not really too much to report there. Alright, so obviously, the really big news here is that Red Eyes Dragoon is finally being imported to the TCG. If you guys don't know what it does, you fuse it by using Dark Magician and Red Eyes Black Dragon or a Dragon Effect monster. It has 3,000 attack points, 2,500 defense points, can't be destroyed or targeted by card effects. During your main phase, for each normal monster you use as material, so 2 if you use Dark Magician and Red Eyes Black Dragon, you get to pop an opponent's monster and inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack points. And then on top of that, if a card or effect is activated, you get to discard a card, negate the activation, destroy the card, and then boost this card's attack power by 1,000. This card is actually just like one of the most insane cards that's ever been made. It's absolutely ridiculous. We could talk about this card all day, but maybe that'll be like a separate video. For now, I want to briefly mention 2 cards that spiked in price immediately after this news dropped. So firstly, Red Eyes Fusion is the card that helps to make Dragoon on the board a little bit easier. It allows you to fusion summon Dragoon using materials directly from your deck, and it doesn't require your opponent to have a monster on board or any condition like that. Now this card has 3 printings. The original Super, which is the only holo version available at around $27 a piece right now, though yesterday it was hitting a high of like $45 to $50, and then 2 common printings from Legendary Duelists and the Legendary Dex box, where each common version is about $7 a piece. Now, I'm going to give you guys a really big heads up here, but we do still have that Legendary Duelist Season 1 box coming out in July, the one with the reprint of Millennium Eyes Restrict, and it includes reprints of Red Eyes cards like Red Eyes / Dragon, so I'm 95% sure that Red Eyes Fusion will be reprinted as one of the colored ultra rares in that set, so if you can grab commons super cheap now, then go ahead, but at the same time, don't freak out and worry too much about grabbing the supers or freaking out about grabbing your set right away, because it should have a reprint coming up soon. Now, the other card I want to touch on is Predaplant Verte Anaconda. This card basically gives decks access to Dragoon at any point in the game. It's super generic, you make it with any 2 effect monsters, you dump Red Eyes Fusion from your deck to copy its effect, and then get Dragoon out really easily. This is one of the best cards from Duel Overload, and while it was hovering around the $17 to $19 mark before, I literally watched it disappear off the market yesterday until it hit the point of being $25 today, which is pretty crazy. To be honest, this card just came out. I don't think they're going to hit Verte Anaconda or Dragoon anytime soon, and I think that Verte Anaconda is only going to go up in price from where it currently is, as more and more people realize that they're going to want to play it. It is just that good, so I would absolutely grab your copies now before they spike any higher. Up next, we're going to take a look at the core sets that are being included in this year's Megatins. This is really important to do, especially given the fact that we basically have no events scheduled for the next several months. I'd say 90% of the cards we're going to look at here are going to be reprinted, so it's extremely important to look at them, and if we have them, try to move them. After being reprinted, they will inevitably tank in value, and with no events for the foreseeable future, they're going to be a bit harder to move than usual. And in my opinion, there's not really too much of a point in holding onto them now. I'd say it's a much more solid strategy to move these cards before their reprints are confirmed and their prices tank, and then buy them again after the Megatin reprints. So in Savage Strike, we obviously already have reprints confirmed for the 2 main big cards. Phantasme was reprinted in Duel Overload, and Pot of Extravagance is going to be in Toon Chaos. I'm thinking that we're going to see Phantasme reprinted again, because its value isn't huge at the moment, but Extravagance might not show up, especially if it's short printed in Toon Chaos, and it can be used to add value to another product later on. Outside of that, Borreload Savage Dragon is a crazy expensive card at well over $40, and Korrabane and World Legacy Guard Dragon are well above $10 each. Now, each of these cards are going to make amazing prismatic secret rares just right off the bat, and I don't see them being too expensive after a Megatin reprint. At most, maybe I see Borreload Savage Dragon being like $10 to $15, but that's about it. Now, once reprinted, these cards will be great cards to pick up and hold on to, but for now, I would absolutely prioritize moving them now in order to maximize your potential value. Also, just as a side note, Cyber's Quantum Dragon and Psychic Wielder are 2 other cards that are cheaper, around $5 a piece, but their values will likely tank quite heavily following the reprint, so they're likely to drop to around $1 or so each. So if you do have someone that's looking for them and you have the opportunity to move them, I would go ahead and do that now. Alright, next up we have Dark Neostorm. I personally really love this set. It was just really cool. So many good cards in here. Obviously now Ib the World Chalice Justiciar is banned and Dingirsu has been reprinted, so that's 2 cards we don't need to worry about. I think Avramax is the really big one here. A lot of decks utilized it with IP to make a really hard to kill monster, and it's been around $30 for a really long time. Cherubini and Brotar are both pieces for different combo decks that needed reprints as well. Cherubini definitely more so because it is a Burning Abyss card, and I feel like with Burning Abyss being such a popular archetype, so many people were looking for it. Brotar was never like a super expensive card. I think it peaked at maybe $20 or so, but it's always been fairly cheap, around like the $8 to $10 range. I feel like LP was really close to being banned on the last ban list after seeing what happened in the OCG, so I think it's possible that we'll see LP banned within the next couple of lists, and if that happens, that will also tank Brotar's value as well. Of course, Signet Mining was just reprinted in Duel Overload, but even then it's like a $5 to $7 card. It's not too important right now with not too many Cyber stacks out, except for maybe like Salamangrates, but if another good Cyber stack does come out, it might be important again and we'll want to grab them. And then of course, we have 2 cards that could have been secret rares, but were thankfully only super rares, so they're very likely to see rarity bumps. These are Crackdown and Mystic Mine. These remind me a lot of Prismatic Secret Rare Called by the Grave from the 2019 Megatins. I think that they will be very similarly highly sought after by a lot of people, as they're relatively generic cards that see a lot of meta play. Okay, so Rising Rampage was arguably the worst set we've seen in a really long time. It had Appaloosa, which is an absolutely game-breaking card, and really, that's about it in terms of value. Appaloosa is obviously still a really expensive card, being about $100 or so right now. I mean, there is the possibility of it being reprinted in Battles of Legend, and then the Megatins, kind of like what happened with Borrelsword Dragon last year, but that depends on Konami. Either way, I'm 100% expecting Appaloosa to be reprinted within the next couple of reprint sets. After that though, the set really starts to fall off. Gizmek Orochi is a really popular card for a lot of different decks like Grand Maju and Orchist, so it'll be nice to have it more accessible, but it already wasn't too expensive, only a $10 to $15 card. Get Out is a $6 card that people have tried hyping up, but never really saw much success. There's a couple of Marincess cards in this set like Coral Anemone and Marble Brock, so casual players will be able to build the deck now really easily without breaking the bank, but that deck never really did anything either. Other than those cards, nothing really. Like Romulus is something that Dragon Link plays, and then I guess there's also like the Dream Mirrors. I know Konami said something about Dream Mirrors when they were talking about Toon Chaos, so I don't know if this set will help them at all, but hopefully, and then it could possibly make the Dream Mirrors relevant, but I wouldn't get my hopes up too high. Alright, and then finally, another somewhat underwhelming set, I suppose. Chaos Impact was the set where the best card was an ultra rare, and that was IP Masquerena. Obviously still an amazing card, and I think it would look beautiful as a secret rare, so I would try to move your extra ultra rare copies for now. If you have Starlight rares though, please make sure that you send them to me immediately instead. Anyways guys, Starlight Safer was one of the better cards in the set, typically between the $30 to $40 price range, so it does help make Dragon Link a bit of a cheaper deck. I don't think it's ban worthy or anything like that directly, so I think it would be a safe pickup when the Megatins do come out. But at $30 to $40 now, I would definitely be trying to get rid of them. Same thing with Striker Dragon, really. The card jumped from like $5 to $25 out of nowhere. It'll be back to around $5 as soon as the Megatins drop. Aside from that, the set was pretty lackluster. We get the Unchained cards reprinted, which I guess is kind of cool, right? Because a lot of the cards from that archetype were secret rare. But the deck was never really going to do anything, and it was always kind of underwhelming. I'm kind of looking forward to collecting the cards because the art is really cool, but they were already pretty cheap anyways. There's Salamangreat Pyro Phoenix, the card Tombox thought was broken, but no one ever actually played. And then a couple of other cards worth a couple of dollars each, right? Like cards like Draco Berserker of the Tenyi and then Gallant Granite. I guess if Adamancipators take off, then it would be kind of cool to have the Gallant Granite reprinted fairly early. So yeah, overall, I mean, there's a lot of potential for a lot of really good cards to be included in the Megatins. Cards like Appaloosa, IP, Avermax, Borreload Savage Dragon, just cards that have been really expensive for the past year or so that make it difficult to finish off certain decks. But then even then, some of the cheaper like $5 to $10 to $15 cards, hopefully making the decks and archetypes of the past year a little bit easier to complete. But that's also a fair chunk of money that you can save for yourself right now by moving the cards before they depreciate in value and then rebuying them back later on after the reprints. Okay guys, so we do have that really cryptic and more added onto the list of sets. So we just got reprints of Caspar and Starfire, and then Dark Saviors was all reprinted last year. My expectation then is for these reprints to be from some of the side sets after that. I'm expecting the cards to be from Hidden Summoners or Infinity Chasers, maybe potentially Mystic Fighters as well. That being said, Hidden Summoners was a pretty terrible set, but definitely could be included. There's not too many expensive cards from there. I think it's just like maybe Prank Kids Place, but the set wasn't open too much, so maybe they'll reprint the Prank Kids cards as commons just to make them more accessible to players. Now, Infinity Chasers, I think, is the big one that they are going to reprint cards from. We just saw cards like Witchcrafter Creation get a reprint in Dual Overload, so I think they'll hit the other two archetypes from the set. A lot of people have been looking at Infinitrack cards like Infinitrack Anchor Drill, because of decks like Trains or Machinas, so reprinting them in this set will be a big boost for people wanting to play those decks. And then Surzeal of the Evil Eye is something that never really took off as a meta strategy, but was always something that was still expensive because I guess people thought that the deck might have potential. Now, I don't really want to include Mystic Fighters here because the set came out less than half a year ago, and by the time the Megatins drop, the set will be less than a year old. But the reason I'm talking about them here is that we're getting generator cards coming in Eternity Code, so it could be the case that Konami reprints cards like Mardell and Boss Stage to help push the generator archetype. I think this is fairly unlikely, but depending on how people feel about the Megaton set, the Dragon Maids could also potentially help to push sales as well. Fist of the Gadgets is a set that no one really cared for that much. I think one of the things people really looked for from there was actually like super rare scrap recyclers, but I mean, it is possible that we see reprints of those few expensive Fire Fist cards like Elephant and Eagle. And then finally, the one that doesn't really fit into the recent side set idea, but one that I think would make a lot of sense, I think we are going to see a reprint of a lot of the invoked cards in the Megatons this year. Not just Invocation, which is what really needs a reprint, but also like all of the invoked fusion monsters. They really need reprints for improved accessibility to the player base, and the card pool in the Megatons will actually be big enough to support the reprints here. So yeah, invoked might be a bit of a stretch, but it's definitely something that I'm hoping and looking forward to seeing reprinted in the Megatons. Alright guys, that is it for today's video. There's one more thing I didn't go over, and that is the fact that there's 3 more world premiere cards being introduced in the Mega set as well. What those are is kind of anyone's guess. I'm wondering if they're going to be on par with cards like Nibiru and Dark Ruler No More. I guess only time is going to tell. Already though, this is absolutely shaping up to be the best product of the year 2020, even better than Dual Overload, and there's potential for it to be even better than last year's Megatons as well, which were already really amazing. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button for me, and be sure to let me know down in the comments section below what you guys' thoughts are on this year's Megatons, what stuff you guys are most looking forward to, as well as your own speculation about what could be in the set. And of course, if you haven't already, make sure that you're subscribed for all of the latest Yu-Gi-Oh content, like that live duel that Tombox is going to be posting up tomorrow. And until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.